Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for March 7, 2022, the Ericsson sued edition. And we begin with that story from Reuters that reports that Ericsson, its CEO, and CFO have been sued in a shareholder action, naming the and its CFO as defendants in a class action for misleading investors. The heart of this claim is around the scandal in Iraq around alleged potential payments to the Islamic State. The DOJ said that Ericsson is in breach of the 2019 DPA for failing to disclose details of its operations. So additional and new problems for Ericsson. They can't seem to get out of the way of from shooting themselves in the foot. Next up, Activision Blizzard is more bad news as the company's been sued for wrongful death by a family of an employee who killed herself based upon alleged harassment that the employee sustained while working for Activision Blizzard. In a response, Activision Blizzard said the lawsuit was distorted and in many cases false, and that, quote, "We are sickened by the reprehensible conduct of the DFEH to drag the complainant and the tragic suicide of the employee whose passing has no bearing whatsoever on this case." That's around the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing lawsuit, which referenced it. But now we have the suit by the parents. So they claim that the daughter's boss initially lied to investigators in the Anaheim Police Department who were looking into the death, concealing a relationship that the boss had with their daughter. So more trouble for Activision Blizzard. Next up from The Guardian, a move to add free speech protections to the UK Bribery Act. Free speech amendments have been tabled for inclusion in an anti-corruption legislation due before Parliament after ministers promised to reform the British legal system to prevent intimidation lawsuits. They're determined to build a cross-party coalition to ensure that reforms before Parliament designed to expunge from London the problem of dirty money, ensure oligarchs of any nation can no longer use the English legal system against ordinary citizens, journalists, or civil servants. The amendment would require government to institute an inquiry into slap suits, and a second would protect individuals disclosing otherwise confidential information from the offshore property register if they could show the disclosure was in the public interest. So very interesting. And finally, from Transparency International, they report that countering Russian kleptocrats, what the West's response should be going forward. So good to see TI weighing in at this point. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.